Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of Bankroll Burners, the podcast for poker players who can't stop getting it in bad. I'm Mike.
And I'm Josh.
And this week we're kind of fresh off a session we played in Philadelphia. Josh and I were in Philadelphia for a convention. And in the evening, we went to one of the popular poker rooms in Philly, which is Philly Live. And I got to say, I thought it was a pretty nice room. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I mean, I think it was good. The action was pretty solid. A lot of tables. I'm probably a bit spoiled by like the cleanliness of casinos because I like Encore Boston is one of like the nice, it's new and it's very, very nice. But yeah, I agree. I thought it was quite good.
Yeah, I don't know if like clean is a common adjective associated with casinos. To be
Right, exactly. But like that Encore Boston really is.
Yes, absolutely, because it's new, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Definitely a lot of the casinos in Vegas are pretty clean as well. But I would say in general, casinos aren't necessarily the cleanest of places. Yeah, I would say Philly Live was it wasn't clean, let's say that. But nevertheless, it was nice. It was nice staff, really, really good, fast dealers, all of them. The whole time we played, they were all really good.
I liked the dealers a lot. I think that a lot of dealers who maybe aren't as experienced or something don't know, the kind of tips and tricks to move a game along. How many times you've been to a showdown where both players just sit there with their cards face down for like, more than a minute. And there was none of that here. It was like showdown, show me. Like pointed directly at the player and said, flip over your cards. Like, which is awesome and really keeps things moving.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's undervalued, like how much a good dealer can add to a game. I think that is really, honestly, pretty awesome. So,
yeah.
And also we did play in the 2-5 game, which was a big game. I mean, Josh and I did not buy in for that much. We bought in for around 100 big blinds each to start the night, but everyone at the table was sitting like deep as heck. I mean, it was like 300, 400, 500 big blinds deep for a lot of folks.
Well, yes, and it was basically a 2-5-10 game also. The straddle was on probably 80% of the time. There were a couple of people at the table who either didn't straddle, they didn't straddle often, or, they forgot to put their straddle in, or they just straddled once in a while. But yes, there was a lot of straddling. It was a big game. Definitely a shot take for me. But it went very well for me. I successfully shot took, so can't complain.
Yeah, you had quite the big win, and I had quite the big loss. So it was
as usual. We told you guys before. One of us does well.
Yep, that's sort of the tradition. So, but no, it was a good night. It was a lot of fun, and the table was really good. The guys were actiony. We had the 7 deuce game going. We were doing bomb pots. Like Josh said, the straddle was on pretty much every hand. So it was fun. It was a really fun table.
Yeah, we just saw some bizarre hands, from like a couple maniacs that we're just like throwing chips around, but also we're like playing solid and aggressively sometimes. So it was kind of a fun game to play and to watch when you weren't in a hand.
Yeah, I will say this game was tough. In a lot of ways, like I would say there was only like at any given time there were only 1 or 2 people at the table who didn't really know what they were doing. For the most part, people kind of were students of the game in some capacity. So
yeah, I think that's fair.
But anyway, I think we'll start with a hand here. Like I had a really bad night, and I think for the most part it was just I ran bad. But this hand, I'm pretty sure I just played abysmally, and I would really like to get your thoughts on how I could have played it better. I can tell you up front, one of them is going to be fold pre, so let's just get that out of the way. But I did not fold pre. So
all right, fold pre.
Fold pre. Yeah, I should really just fold pre. So
all right, now moving on to my hand. No,
yeah, exactly. I love this idea that like, if your hand is a fold pre, then it never really should have happened. So there's no learning to be had from the rest of the hand. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm sure that everyone plays perfectly pre-flop and never makes a bad pre-flop call. So.
No, I completely agree, and it's also like there are really interesting situations where if you call pre-flop with like some weak suited connector hand and like you hit a pair, like you're kind of obligated to like if it's heads up, like go at least one street, and that's just like
Sure.
very awkward and like, one of the that's like the situation that I mainly think of. Well, if you just fold, then you don't need to deal with this nearly as much.
Yeah, I really wish that my hand was as good as a suited connector. But anyway, so
Right.
we are 650 effective. I'm of course the effective stack. We are 2-5-10, 8-handed, and under the gun is going to open us up to $30.
Okay. And that was the standard open. Sometimes it does get bigger than 3x, but 2-5-10, pretty much everyone was opening to 30 when the straddle was on.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And this player is one of the bad players at the table. Yep. So under the gun opens 30. This guy was very passive, very sort of like classic live poker player. And the cutoff, who is fairly solid, calls. And then I don't remember who the cutoff was actually, but I'm just it might have even been you. I'm not actually sure. But anyway, cutoff calls. In which case, the statement of it being very fairly solid, obviously wrong.
Yep, another bad player.
Yep. So cutoff calls, and I'm in the big blind, which is of course the middle blind.
It wasn't me then. It was the guy on my right.
Okay.
Yeah, who was also solid, I think.
Yes, the guy on your right was FSL. All right. So solid player and cutoff calls. I'm in the big blind with Queen of Clubs, 10 of Spades, and I call.
Okay. I mean, I honestly don't hate that too much. Like, you have a lot of you can definitely make a lot of strong hands. It interacts well with Broadway boards, and the guy on your left, if I recall correctly, was relatively passive.
The guy on my left was an OMC, so I'm not really worried about him calling behind, to be honest.
Right, or 3-betting is what I'd really be concerned about, like a lot of the time. But
I mean, if I had called with a strong hand and he 3-bet, it's the easiest laydown in the world. So,
so I actually don't hate that. I mean, you're getting like good odds. Don't mind. I mean, it's not the best hand to take, but there's nothing wrong with getting that VPEP up. How else are you going to burn the bankroll?
Right, exactly. So I call, and the OMC in the straddle does call as well. This is one of the only times he straddles. And so we are 4 ways to a flop, 120 in the pot. And the flop is Jack of Hearts, 10 of Diamonds, 9 of Diamonds.
Okay, and we do not have a diamond, correct?
We do not have a diamond. We have a 10.
Yep.
And we have an open-ended straight draw.
Yep.
Of course, if a king comes, we do lose to ace queen.
Yep.
So that's,
and we could already be like dead to king queen. Like any player here could have king queen.
That's correct as well, yes. And also, obviously, it's a very wet board from a flushing perspective as well. And there's all sorts. I mean, players could have, someone could have 8-7 here. Like, this is a scary board.
Yep.
And under the gun, so I check, straddle checks. There's no merit to leading out here, I would think.
I agree.
Yeah. And under the gun, who it was the original raiser, bets 80. It's just, I actually think appropriate sizing for this flop, I would say, because this flop is very likely to connect with all of us in the field. And so if you're going to bet, I think you should bet very infrequently, first of all. And if you're going to bet, I think you should bet rather large. So I actually like the sizing. I wouldn't even mind it like $100 from him. That's what.
I think this is a great spot to kind of polarize and bet fewer hands. Like there are a lot of hands you can kind of check back that have some value, but maybe not a ton. But there are a lot of really strong hands. I mean, there are not a lot. There are some really strong hands that he can have as well. King Queen, Jacks, 10s, Jack 10, 10-9. But the problem is like you guys can also have most of those hands.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. I mean, for example, I think it would be insane to bet like ace here from his spot.
Right.
Especially for the sizing. So, because if you get check raise, it sucks. Yeah. So he bets, and the cutoff folds, and so it's on me. And what do you want? What do you want to do here?
Well, I think I want to call. I mean, I don't. I think we've definitely talked quite a bit about sort of pair draw combinations, especially when he's polarizing his range. I think just calling is in order. There are still a lot of ways we can improve. The straddle, as you said, was basically an OMC, so he is likely to fold as well, and we'll get a heads up and can continue to evaluate.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, he's never going to check raise as a bluff here. I mean, if I call and the straddle check raises, this is once again an extremely easy laydown. So
Right. So I like just calling here.
yeah, I agree. I think it's far too nitty to fold. Also,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
um, so yeah, I do call. I call the 80, and the straddle does indeed get out of the way. So we are heads up. Um, and so we now have 280 in the pot. If my math is correct.
Yes, 280 in the pot.
Yeah. So, and the turn is a brick. It's a 6 of spades. And I check. Once again, is just, I mean, I don't even know what my leading range could possibly be on this card. So I think I just have to check.
Okay.
And he now does something very interesting, which is he bets $100. So remember, last street he bet 80, and this street he bets $100.
Right.
And remember, this is a very, like, we have already seen at this point that this guy is very much like a classic low stakes live player. So I think I pretty much know exactly what his hand is at this point. But what do you think?
So, I mean, I think it's definitely possible that he just has like an overpair here. Just because, like, you know, I think I tend to agree with you that overpairs might be a bit too thin to include in your polarization range on Jack 10-9. I still might do it sometimes, but I think most people are probably going to sort of take that mindset of like, you know, I have an overpair. I want to prevent people from sucking out on me.
Right.
You know, like that kind of like weird logic that doesn't really make sense if you like think about it more. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here. Is like it seems like a board where he could definitely just have an overpair.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think, just it bears thinking about, saying for a sec, like, well, why is that bad logic? Why shouldn't I, on such a wet board, why don't I want to bet my overpair to prevent people from sucking out on me? And the answer is because people can raise you a lot on that board, and, you will get blown off your equity a lot. Because if you get check raised on that board, man, and if you have ace, I mean, you should probably fold. I mean, I think king is maybe a bit better because you're double blocking the nuts. But I think ace is probably a fold if you get check raised on that board, especially if you take such a large sizing. I mean, would you probably agree with that?
Yeah, and I mean, I also just think it's kind of a psychological thing where people think I want to not get sucked out on, but like if you don't get sucked out on, then like you're not getting called by worse hands. Which is like the whole point of betting. Like if you are value betting, you want to get called like in that spot by queen 10, right? Oh, I want to bet big and fold out queen 10 so they don't suck out on me. It's like, no, you are like significantly ahead of that hand and you want to get called by it. So
exactly,
that's kind of the logic there. But anyway, yeah, I mean this is kind of what this bet size, because the bet sizing is just not like consistent here, right? If he had a super strong hand or like ace X of diamonds, I would expect him to continue betting on the larger side. The one piece I would say that maybe it still could be one of those hands is looking at stack sizes. If there's 280 in the pot and it's 540 effective, so if he bets 100 and you call, then you're gonna have like 440 left, and the pot's gonna be 480. So it's, if he's actually like thinking about this, which it sounds like he's not, but just something to consider that this sizing could just be like basically setting up for a pot-sized river shove.
I think that's an excellent point, and I think if someone, if it was another type of player, like most of the players at the table who were thinking about the game, I do think that there's a lot less to read into this bet size. But because we kind of at this point in the night knew what this guy was about, I think that very clearly this is an overpair or a jack.
Yep.
And he's just like, this is a see where I'm at bet. That's what I think this is. It's a classic, like, see where I'm at bet. Like, is my jack still good? I don't know. Let's find out.
Yep, this is my live poker joke of the day for this type of player. C bet stands for see where I'm at bet.
Thank you, Josh. Oh my God, I think I want to cut that. Yeah. So, what do you want to do here?
Well, I mean, if we kind of are able to narrow his range pretty well to like mostly overpairs, then I'm kind of on board turning our hand into a bluff at this point. Because I mean, the best overpair for him to continue with is like pocket queens, probably, because it has a lot of equity against like all your hands and it's double blocking the nuts. And we have a queen, so like, and like we block the nuts, we still have like a ton of equity against overpairs. So
Yeah,
I kind of want to start turning this hand into a bluff.
I agree. I agree with that. I mean, so if we just look at the pots for a second, it's 380 now after his bet, and I have to call 100. So one thing I just want to point out, and this is what I was thinking about in the moment, is I actually have direct odds to call.
Okay.
Because I don't think I'm getting about 4-1, which is enough, more than enough direct odds to call with an open ender. If we think that I'm always good when I make my draw, which unless he has exactly King Jack, I am. So I'm most of the time it's good. That was what I thought in the moment. And I also think if we're going to turn our hand into a bluff, it's just a shove, right?
Right. And I think that, we can we can kind of think about this from like a fold equity perspective too, right? I haven't done a whole lot of work with like fold equity calculators and stuff, but they are out there, and like this is a great spot to like look at one and basically think, how often does he have to fold for like it to be worth turning our hand into a bluff here?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember exactly who this player was, but it is possible that this is the type of player that if this is the guy that I think it is, then like it's possible that he's just like not folding over pairs particularly often. In which case, it still might just be better to call with the direct odds.
Yeah, and that is this player that you're thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's the other thing. The other consideration is like he probably isn't ever folding an overpair because he's so sticky. But he might. I mean, not some people can make hero even when they aren't normally hero folders. They will sometimes. I mean, what are we like? How big is the jam here? We were at we had 570 left in the. No, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. We have 540 left, and so we are going to jam into 380. We're going to put 540 in, so that's like an over pot size jam.
No, it is a little under. It's close to pot.
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking from an MDF calculation, from minimum defense frequency calculation. We're risking 540 to win 380, so we need to win. I think more. It needs to work. I think more than. God, I don't even remember how to do MDF calculations anymore, and off the top of my head.
As you see, we've both really studied the theoreticals and have them well memorized.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, I don't know.
I just pulled up a fold equity calculator online. And if the pot size is 280, they bet 100. We're shoving for 540, and I estimated like 20% equity when called, and I don't know. We'd have to like look at his range, but maybe it's a little bit higher.
Right. It's probably 2026.
So basically, they need to fold half the time for it to break even.
Okay. So I don't know that he is folding half the time, knowing how sticky this dude is. To be honest.
Yeah, and this is like an interesting tool that I definitely should use more for this sort of thing, because I think this is like an interesting thing to think about. Basically, if we can get him off half his, and he might not always have an overpair. I mean, there's the other thing, but then he also might have strong or weak hands. So if he has to fold half the time, I don't know. I think it's close, and I think against a lot of players you can definitely do this. I mean, at some tables it's like printing money. Like people are just going to fold overpair. The overpairs 100% of the time to this shove, but this guy, very sticky. I can see just a call with the direct odds.
Yeah, I think so. I was really coming into this thinking that, because I did call. I'll tell you, I did call, but I was really coming into this podcast thinking like I really screwed up and should have turned my hand into a bluff. But now that we've talked through it, and I'm glad you pulled that calculator up, because I actually think that would have been a spew versus this player because he was so sticky. Like throughout the night, he made some I was like, how did you make this call? Many times. So
yes, I was the beneficiary of one of those when he called me and said Ace King was good, and was quite sad to see my set.
Yeah. So, yeah. So anyway, I did just call. River bricks out.
Okay.
The river's like a 3. I mean, at this point, what do we just wave the white flag?
Yeah, I mean, if he wasn't going to fold to the check jam, he's not going to fold to a donk jam when all the draws missed, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And so I do check. He quickly checks back and shows Ace Jack of Spades. So
okay. And Ace Jack is actually one of the hands that, like, And it's probably a small part of his range compared to all the overpairs. Ace Jack suited.
Right.
It's like it's slightly smaller, but I feel like that is a hand that like he can maybe fold more often, like because like kings and queens have better blockers to straights, and he might think of it more as like, oh, I can still hit a straight, but like Ace Jack is maybe a hand we could have gotten him to fold. So I wasn't really thinking about Ace Jack because we were thinking about overpairs, but that might actually kind of swing the pendulum back in the other direction, where if he has enough hands that are not overpairs that he is folding, that might.
Yeah, I think he has like Ace Jack and some King Jack, probably.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting because I don't think he has like King Queen or a set a whole lot just because of his sizing.
Oh, for sure. I think he never has a strong hand as played. I'd say that he never has a strong hand.
Then I think it's pretty close, right? Like
Yeah.
I think it's pretty close.
Yeah, it is. I guess I mean, I want to be results oriented. Like he happened to have Ace Jack, but if you look at his entire range, he has probably a lot more overpairs.
Right.
So I think it's probably one I shouldn't lose sleep over. I guess that's my conclusion of this conversation.
Yeah, I think it's pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah, it can never be that terrible to call with a draw when you have direct odds. So.
Yeah, I agree, and I think this hand is probably also just never terrible to just jam because like it does like have fold equity against most players. So I think I agree. I don't think it's something to lose a whole lot of sleep over.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, we are blocking the nuts. So okay, let's move along.
Sure. So my hand here is from the same game, and I think this is kind of an interesting hand where I just kind of was a little bit paralyzed in a couple situations and feel like I didn't get the full value from what my opponent's full range. So let's hop into it.
Yeah.
So I am in the straddle in this game, so it's playing 2-5-10, and we are about 600 effective.
Okay.
It is actually going to fold.
This is early in the night, right?
This is early in the night. I think this is one of the first hands I played, and I think that may have had something to deal with it, just because it is, again, a little bit higher than the stakes I usually play. Taking a shot was kind of trying to start off by playing a little bit more ABC than maybe I otherwise would, just to get comfortable with the game.
Yeah.
But anyway, the small blind is going to limp in, and I think the small blind is a pretty solid player at this point. I think he definitely like was bluffing a good amount. He was opening a solid number of hands. He also was limping sometimes, and I'm just like, I'm not exactly sure what hands he was limping because it just was like weird hand. I feel like he showed down some of them, and they were just weird hands.
It folds to him in the small blind. Okay.
Yes. And
okay.
He limped.
Okay.
And I think he is the kind of the young guy who was the cutoff from your last hand, and I thought he was like pretty solid, but he also just like made some weird decisions. So he can't be that solid if he's limping from the small blind.
Well, I actually don't know that I necessarily agree. Like I think when you get into the blind, when it folds to the blinds, I think you are supposed to mix in some limps. Because like I don't hate it because I think you want to be able to play a ton of hands from those positions. Like, this is just me thinking out loud here. This could be totally wrong, and someone might be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But I kind of think when I think about myself in the small blind, in a 3-blind game, of course, I want to be able to play a lot of hands from the blinds. So I would rather develop a limping range. And, I need to make sure it's balanced. Like maybe put some maybe add some limp re-raises in there, put some suited wheel aces type hands. In that limping range. But I think developing a limping range in the blinds is probably appropriate. I would have, especially in a game where like people kind of know what's going on, like that game.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I was definitely the blinds also kind of definitely added to my confusion throughout the rest of the hand. I was just kind of not sure. Anyway, let's continue through and we can keep talking through it. But anyway, the small blind limps, and I look down in the straddle at ace 10 of spades. So I'm going to raise this one up. It's the big blind is folded, so it's just me and him. I make it 30, and he calls.
Sure, seems fine. I mean, I don't really know how you're supposed to size that. Are you supposed to go 35? Like, I don't know. It probably doesn't matter, but
it's a little weird, right? Because I'm like in position on him, which is nice. So
I also think I mean, Yeah, I don't know. I think your sizing's fine. So you make it 30 and he calls. Okay.
So the pot's 65, and he's gonna, and the flop is gonna come out 9 of hearts, 8 of spades, 7 of hearts.
Okay, so you have an open-ended straight draw and a backdoor spade draw, correct?
Right, and now he's gonna check it to me.
Sure. I think he can lead on this board a lot, probably. Although, your range is quite right as well, so maybe he's not really supposed to.
Yeah, and this is another spot where I'm like, damn, like, it's in the blinds. I'm like, I don't know, if, because I feel like ordinarily as the pre-flop raiser, this is definitely a board that we can polarize on, similar to sort of the last board that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar texture, 987 with a flush draw. But because like I should be raising quite a lot of hands from the straddle, I'm not sure if this hand is in like the top X% that I can bet, having the backdoor flush draw and an open ender. And, like, since he's probably limping and playing a number of hands, whether he has just so many like whiffs on this board, that I should just be betting like more often because it's blind versus blind.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, can you remind me? There is a front door heart draw out there, yes, or is it rainbow?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I like a small bet here, to be honest with you, because like I hear what you're saying. Like this is normally like blind versus blind is weird because normally you would want to polarize on this board, absolutely, and you would be checking like a lot. But I think blind versus blind, like he has, especially because he limp called, he has so many hands. Like
right.
You might bet and get called by a worse hand here. You think about it. Like you really could.
Absolutely.
So like even if you didn't have a flat, like if you just had ace high, you're like ace deuce, you could bet and get called by like 6x, So like it's really like, yeah, I want to bet here. I want to bet small. I want to bet most of my hands here. I honestly, even though this board is so scary, I want to bet a large volume of hands. I mean, if you think this player is going to be doing a lot of raising, then okay, fine, maybe you check. But unless I don't know, I just want to bet, I think.
Yeah, it was just really, really interesting to me because I was thinking, a lot of the hands that he's folding are going to be like worse than me anyway. Like, what's he calling that's worse than me? Like, I don't know, Queen Jack is like a big one. 2 overs in a gutter. Queen 10, King 10. I guess are sort of the biggest ones. So
or like 6-4,
right?
Like, and let's say he could also call you with like 6-7, right, bottom pair, and you're behind that hand, but you're not that far behind that hand, and you also can cooler that hand. So yeah,
it's just one of these. It's one of these situations where I was just like, I think you're probably right that it's almost like the reverse of like a 4-bet pot where like ranges get so narrow that you should just c bet a lot. Where here like ranges are so wide that he just has so many hands he like has to give up or are just like low equity that if he if he's not playing properly and like obviously it would suck to get raised here, but I probably can just like bet a lot of hands here.
And here's the thing: if you get raised, you can call. Because you have an open ender, so you can call. You have the equity to call a raise. So I really just want to bet $20. So
yeah, well, I checked back because I was like, I wasn't really thinking about that. I was like, wow, this is so weird, like blind versus blind, polar, and I was trying kind of thinking about polarization and better hands that I have, which like I do have a lot of better hands because like I can have a lot of or stronger draws. I can have sets. Pocket 10s, pocket jacks, all basically like a lot of good heart draws. So I decided to check it back, and I think you're right that I can probably just bet like a lot of hands here, and this is definitely one of them.
Okay, all right, well that's fine. I don't think checking is horrendous. So okay, you check.
And the turn is now going to come the 10 of hearts.
Oh my god, oh my god. Okay.
So it's 9 of hearts, 8 of spades, 7 of hearts, 10 of hearts. So we make top, but the board is now 4 to a straight. Any jack or 6 makes a straight. And there's also 3 hearts.
Yep.
And he's going to check again. And again, This is a spot where I kind of sit here and think. And I'm like, is this a spot where I can kind of like, is a spot where I can bet small for like super thin value to deny equity from 1 heart hand now that he's checked? Like, is this a spot where I should, like, try and depolarize and, like, bet big and get called by something? And I think right now I'm probably leaning more towards, like, a small bet after checking the flop and having him check again. And, like, trying to get called by, like, 1 heart hands or, like, a queen or something like that. But I'm not. What do you think about this board?
Here's what I'm. Hmm. Here's what I think. I think if you bet and get raised, it's terrible. Like I think it's like an absolute disaster.
Right, that's true.
So for that, and the thing is, you will have a lot of bet. You will have the best hand here, like a lot. So I just want to check, and then like I pretty much want to call almost any river if he bets. That's kind of my game plan here. I kind of want to check and then pretty much call any river bet,
And I do kind of
unless the
see,
fourth heart comes, obviously. But
and I do kind of see your point that betting the previous street kind of makes more sense just because you have like we do have a lot of equity with two cards to come. That if we get raised, we are kind of priced into call with sort of all our different equity. But here it's like if we get raised, it's like wow, top is just like nothing.
right,
it's literally nothing.
And like the thing is, if he check raises you here, he's absolutely going to bet river, and like you could just lose a bunch of money here when you really don't need to. And you think about like there's a possibility, there's a way to play this hand that could involve you losing a lot of money, but there's absolutely no way to play this hand that causes you to win a lot of money. So I would really want to take the conservative route.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of thinking throughout the hand, like on the flop also, where I was like, wow, like I just feel like a lot of the hands that call me, I might be ahead, I might be behind, but not that behind. Or I'm going to get like one street of value max.
Sure.
So anyway, yeah, I do actually check back here. I'm like, this just feels like way too thin. But I do basically plan on calling a river because like when he checks the turn, it definitely does, not preclude him, but at least lower the probability that he's got a super strong hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably has a pair, is what I would imagine. So I think if he checks to you on the river, there's some sort of interesting dynamics here. So okay, what rolls off on the river?
So the river is a total brick. It's the 4 of clubs.
Okay, I mean that does make no, yeah, it's a total brick. Okay,
It makes 4/4 a set.
Yep,
is what it does.
Sure. Which is a hand you can have. That is possible.
And now it continues to get interesting. So on this board of 9, 8, 7, 10, 4 with 3 hearts, into a pot of 65, my opponent bets 10.
Wow.
And now I am like, once again, kind of thinking about, really, I'm not thinking about folding. I'm thinking, can I raise this bet for value? Because like this bet is so tiny, like I don't really see him bluffing a lot with this sizing, and it feels like it probably is just like one pair that he's trying to be super thin with.
Could he ever be trying to induce something here?
He could be. Or he could have like, he also, like something else I think he probably could have is like bottom 2 or something. Like not necessarily bottom 2, but like 8-7. Maybe. Like maybe even one pair is too thin.
I feel like he would bet 8-7 on the turn.
But like it is a scary board to bet bottom 2. So I'm not sure that he would all the time.
Well, it's like what are the worst hands that'll call you here, I guess? Like a worst 10, maybe a 9. I don't know.
Right. It's just like one of these weird spots where I'm like, this bet is so small. Like I feel like I have the best hand, a lot of the time, but like I don't know if my raise accomplishes the goal that I want it to, because like if he is like just bluffing and just wants to win with like absolute garbage, and he's like, oh, this board's so scary, this guy will fold anything, like to any bet, so I'm just gonna bet no money and like not risk anything, then obviously I'm not getting more value. But and if he's betting for value, I'm probably like, I don't know, do I just like I guess if I raise this 10, like do I ever fold out any better hands? Like is there any, can I turn it into a bluff and fold out 2 pair?
No, I think that's a little. I think you have way too much showdown value to turn your hand into a bluff. I don't know. It's weird. I think if you raise, I mean, we wouldn't want to raise huge. You make it like 40, maybe.
Yeah.
And then like he calls you with like king 10, maybe.
It seems too thin to you. Also, is what you're saying.
I don't know. I just really don't want to get bet 3-bet.
Right.
Is sort of my concern. But if you don't, I mean, I don't know that this player is doing that, to be honest with you. So like really doing like trying to induce. I think there are probably enough worse hands that would call Like there's, I mean, it's just like worse tens probably. Um, yeah, man, but there really aren't that many worse tens, huh? Especially because he
Yeah.
limp called pre. I guess you just check it back. Yeah, I just check it back.
What do you mean, Kate? Call. He
Oh
bet
yeah,
10.
sorry, call. Yeah, call.
Yeah, and that's what I do. I basically decide, I come to the same conclusion, but like I was really thinking about this hand like for a little while of just thinking, wow, like what street was I supposed to be more aggressive on? Because I feel like I could have extracted more value like from most hands in his range. As it happened, I called. He said queen high and mucked.
Wow.
So he did like I guess he just like limp called from the small blind with like queen something suited. Like queen 5 suited, probably.
Yeah, I think that I think your answer to your question on what street to be more aggressive, I think it's the flop.
Right.
So, but I mean, I don't think you played this hand like badly or something. I think it was just like weird. It was a weird hand, but yeah. I mean, I think that like that 9-8-7 board, you have to really like like take a second and realize it's like, oh, this is blind versus blind. Like he doesn't really have the nut advantage here at all. So I'm allowed to just bet liberally.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of I agree that I think I could have just bet the flop and then just like checked back like I guess then it kind of comes what happens on the turn if it comes like a brick like am I allowed to like keep betting if I don't pick up the backdoor spade draw?
No, you probably try to see showdown with ace high.
Yeah, so just kind of an interesting, and I thought it was kind of an interesting spot.
Yeah, it is a really interesting hand and an unusual one. I mean, there aren't a lot of blind. You don't end up playing blind versus blind a lot, so
yeah. And I feel like we did in that session, which is weird. Yeah. I feel like I played a lot of blind versus blind hands.
Well, alrighty, everybody. We are going to take a quick break because we're bringing on a guest. We've got a guest on the show today. That's right. We're bringing on our second guest. So if you will hang tight, we will be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. As we mentioned before the break, we do have a guest with us today. This is our friend and fellow poker player, Aath. Hey, Aath, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, nice to meet you guys. Thanks for having me on, by the way. Josh and Mike, it's great. I always thought it was cool ever since you guys made this. Well, my name is Aath. I play in the same online home games that Mike and Josh play in. I play a mixture of mainly No Limit. I've been dabbling in a little bit PLO recently. I play a lot of live poker. In general, I just love poker.
Yeah, what stakes do you play live?
Live, it's a mixture between 1-2 and 2-5.
Gotcha. And you're from Texas, is that right?
Yeah, I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Okay, so those are big games, right?
Yeah, the games generally do run bigger. Like the 1-2 is a 500 cap, and everybody's like straddling all the time, right? And the 2-5s, like whenever I play the 2-5s, it's more of a shot take because it's a 2-5 match the stack game, and everybody has a 10 straddle going on, and it just gets crazy and wild. Sometimes it's insane.
Sure, yeah, I'm sure. I've seen photos people post of like people are in there for like 1,000 bigs or whatever. Like,
yeah, like awesome. Just yesterday, one of my friends was playing a private game that runs around here, and he's like, "Yo, guys, I'm up $10,000." I'm like, "Dude, what? You're up $10,000 at a 2-5? Like, it's nuts sometimes."
That's insane. Yeah,
I mean, that's crazy. That's way bigger. I mean, that's definitely way bigger than the games that we play in are. So sounds like you have a lot of opportunities to.
Yeah, no, poker is great here, man. Poker is booming here.
That's great. I mean, I feel like Texas is like becoming the second like Vegas of poker, it seems to me.
In a way, yeah. I honestly, for at least like, low to mid stakes live, I think poker is honestly better in Texas than Vegas.
Wow. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah. It's just crazy action here. And there's just like such a big poker community. At least that's what I've noticed. Like in Vegas, the players were a lot tighter.
Sure. Yeah. I think you gotta you gotta be in Vegas at certain times when there's like a lot of tourists and stuff.
Yeah, true. That's probably the way to do it.
Texas has never been accused of playing tight.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, well, so you've got a hand for us.
Yeah. So it's from people with the online home game that all of us play in. It's a fellow online home game member. His name is Frankie. Shout out Frankie. So the hand starts out. It's crazy, right? 25 cent, 50 cent, $2,000 effective. Heads up.
Okay,
Let's
hold on here.
let's take a moment.
So this is like 4,000 big blinds deep.
Yeah, it's 4,000 big blinds deep.
And it's like all on the table. It's not like you're playing for $2,000. It's like we are playing 25 cent, 50 cent with 4K big blinds.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so this is quite a bit deeper than
a regular 25 cent, 50 cent heads up.
Yeah, and how long has the game been going for? I feel like that's relevant in heads up matches.
Yeah, the game has been going on for, I want to say, like, we've been playing for 6-7 hours at this point.
Wow.
We've been playing,
Okay.
like, a while. Yeah.
Yeah. And are you up or is he up?
Huh?
Who's stuck?
I think I'm up like $150 or something at this point.
Wow. So this is like a stalemate.
It's still been like relatively tame. We've had some like big pots, but like, the way the game was set up was, I think it was like we do 200 hands of no limit and then switch to 200 hands of PLO.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
This was a no limit hand.
This was a no limit hand.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
So I'm on button, right? I open King Queen of Hearts to $1.50. He 3-bets me to $6. And, we've been playing for a while. Quite a bit of history with him. He's been 3-betting me super light. Like he's shown 7 deuce on occasion. He's shown some absolutely insane hands that you would not see in a 3-bet pot. So I decided to 4-bet this hand for value to 18, right?
Okay. Is there a consideration because he's 3-betting so light, since your hand is relatively strong, that you could just like call and then play a pot in position? Or
I thought about that. That's what I would generally do. But since he's also calling my 3 and 4 bets pretty wide, I decided that King Queen of Hearts was a good enough hand to like raise for value here.
Sure.
His range. Because he's not folding like a lot of, he's not folding like 7-5 suited 1-gapper, suited 2-gappers. He's 3-betting me with all of those. He's not folding low pocket pairs since we're this deep. He's basically not folding anything he's 3-betting me with. This was the thought process that was going through my mind. And King Queen of Hearts is like a hand that plays well in position deep.
No, I think that's a really good analysis there. I mean, if you're like, oh, he's going to call me with so many worse hands, then put more money in. I mean, that's like, oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was just going to say, is there any consideration? Have you guys been pretty much just opening to 150 consistently? Has there been any like increase in raise sizing as you?
No, the raise sizing has been pretty standard throughout, just to $1.50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I guess I will say about King Queen suited specifically, I read, I think this is not relevant in a heads up match, I don't think, but in a 4-ring game or a 6-max game. I read something that I thought was very interesting about King Queen suited specifically, which was that it should almost not be taken for a 4-bet almost ever, because it performs so terribly versus a 5-bet range.
Yeah.
Which I thought was sort of an interesting point, but that it does make sense to me, I guess. I don't know, in like obviously a full ring game.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense, because I mean, when you're getting 4-bet, right, a lot of that range will like just crush you. So you mainly, or if you got 5-bet, for instance, right? If you 4-bet King Queen suited and get 5-bet, like that range should crush you. So I think, I mean, if I was playing a full ring game and I got 5-bet, I'd probably fold King Queen suited, probably defend, hands that aren't dominated by that range. We're talking about like, I don't know why I'd ever 4-bet these hands, but like 6-7 suited, 4-5 suited, or pocket pairs, because, we know what we're doing with those hands. We know what we're trying to achieve. Like pocket pairs hit a set, low suited connectors hit a straight or a flush. But like King Queen suited, like you hit your top pair and you're deep in a 5-bet pot, it's going to be a sticky situation.
Yeah, you're gonna have a bad time. But no, absolutely. I mean, especially in an extremely deep situation, you can call a 5-bet with a hand with insanely good implied odds. And, you
for
can
sure.
make a lot of money. Yeah.
So
Okay.
this is where the hand gets, it kind of, that's crazy that you brought up 5 bets, right?
Sure.
He decides to 5-bet me to $65.
Okay.
So
So
this
your
is where,
4-bet was 18.
yeah,
Wow. So this is a large
it's a
5
big 4-bet. Yeah.
or,
I
or 5.
decided to 4-bet 3x since we're very, very deep.
No, the 4-bet's saying. I'm just saying the 5-bet's really big, right?
The
65.
5-bet was massive too. That's a huge 5-bet.
Yeah.
But I don't like folding. I hate folding actually. So I decided to call,
Us
play a
too.
pot in position.
And to be honest, you probably still have the implied odds to like do this with like the odds that your odds of making like 2 pairs, straights, flushes,
For sure.
like even the nut flushes, there is still going to be like 20x pot behind.
Yeah.
So like even in a 5-bet pot.
Generally, against most opponents, if I got 5-bet this big, I would just fold, right? Because I mean, if the flop comes king, queen, deuce, and the villain is piling money in the middle, like we're not doing well against the 5-betting range here. Like king, queen facing, like if we're facing like a huge jam on the river, we just have a bluff catcher because he has more kings than us.
Sure, although you are blocking.
And our 2 pairs are often dominated here.
Sure.
Yeah.
You are blocking king, king, and queen, queen, of course. If you
Yeah,
have king,
we are blocking it, but blocks are fake.
Yes, that's true. Blockers are not real. I learned that in PLO.
Yes, I have learned many expensive lessons that blockers, it's an imaginary figment.
Yeah, because I kind of think I'm kind of inclined to think that like if you flop king queen deuce with this hand and like he bets 3 times, like I think it's just like we are doing I would say we probably are doing well against his range because he has so many combos of aces compared to kings and queens, right? He's got like 6 combos of aces, but only 1 of kings and queens. So like know, I mean, yes, it's a bluff catcher, but I think we just have to kind of like side call.
But he really has to think, what are we calling down? 2 streets with on a king queen X board in a 5-bet pot? Because like I feel like the more bets that happen pre-flop in hand, ranges are much more narrower and condensed, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like the amount of hands that we have in our calling range, it's not a range that aces wants to go 3 streets with.
That's true. And honestly, like even queens, like I don't even know if like a set of queens would want to like go max value and like play for stacks. It like this deep. It's so like it is. I know what you're saying, and it's like weird, right? Because like, would you 6-bet anything here? Like, what is your, out of curiosity, what would your 6-bet range look like at these?
I mean, in general, I don't have a 5-betting range at all, right? Unless it's super exploitative, and I don't think the person is capable of folding a good hand. But in general, against a valid player, I don't 5-bet or 6-bet. But if I were to have a 6-bet range, it would probably just be aces, or maybe 5% of the time, like something like ace deuce, ace 3, ace 4 suited.
Yeah, and I think not having one is completely, not having a 6-bet or 5-bet range is completely fine.
The problem with having when you include a 5-betting range, it's just so hard to balance. Right? Like
absolutely.
if you get 5-bet, I mean, it's happened to me live, right? Where, random person 5-bets you and you have ace king. I usually just fold in spots like that if we're deep, because they're never bluffing here. They don't have worse. They usually just have aces or kings in these spots because they're not balanced. I mean, no one's balanced in these spots. It's like the polar extreme ends of poker.
100%. But it sounds like you think that that villain here is in this scenario, because it's a heads-up match and you two have been playing for so long, has some bluffs. What do you think those bluffs are?
So I didn't necessarily think he had bluffs, right? I thought he could be overplaying a hand. I thought he could potentially be. I mean, I guess it is a bluff at this point if you're 5-betting 9s, 10s, jacks, and I think I definitely did put aces, kings, queens in his range. And in the moment, I was we have this much to play for behind. We're hella deep, and I'm in position, so I think I can call this. Because if I hit my flush or I hit a straight, I get his whole stack. If he has,
Right.
aces, kings, or something like that.
Is he ever doing this with like ace 5, ace 4, ace 3 suited?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's doing that. Like, in theory, I think I should definitely fold here because I didn't give him, ace deuce, ace 3, ace 4 suited, but I hate folding.
Well, I'm actually saying that if you don't think he's doing with those hands, like your flush draw is very much alive because he'll never make enough flush. Because that's always the concern. If you think his hand if his range contains those types of hands, I would be really concerned about calling here and getting absolutely wrecked
flush over flush
by an inside flush. So I think that if you really don't think he's ever doing that, well, then he can't have like ace king of hearts or ace queen of hearts, obviously. And I'm assuming he's not doing this with ace jack of hearts. So you're probably like, if you make a flush here, it's going to be awesome. So
sure.
Okay. So any other pre-flop thoughts, Josh?
No, I think I think I'm good now. So let's move on.
So the flop comes queen jack 10, 2 diamonds, right? Pretty interesting board and a 5-bet pot. Ace king gets there, right? Ace king is the nuts, and he decides to bet $100, right?
Is there a heart on the board? Out of curiosity,
there's not a heart on the board, no.
And the queen is the queen a diamond?
The queen is a diamond, and the 10 is a diamond. The jack's a club.
Okay, so so it's not possible for him to have like top pair and flush draw. That's just always the question. So So queen jack 10, and he bets 100 into 130. Is that right? We're at 130.
Wait, no, it wasn't. The jack wasn't a club. The jack was a spade. My bad.
A spade.
No, wait. Let me. I'm sorry about this.
It's not really relevant. If it's not a heart and it's not a diamond,
No, never mind. The jack is a heart. The jack is a heart.
Oh, the jack is a heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a backdoor flush draw here, and he bets 100 into 130.
He bets 100 into 130.
Wow, that's insane sizing.
Pretty big bet, yeah.
Yeah.
He just, but it's kind of interesting because like he doesn't actually really have like a nut advantage.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking in the moment. I'm like, I have more ace king than he does. I have more queens. I have more jacks. I have more tens than he does here, right? Because a 5-betting range should, for value, he should have aces and kings.
Yeah, if I'm him, I'm checking this board, I think.
Yeah, and a 5-bet pot. Yeah, and he bets so big, and I block ace king, right? And I block queen, so I'm like, I think I have a pretty standard continue here.
Yeah, I will say though, given that I think I would check if I were him, that means that you should have some large bets with like the nuts, maybe, and like maybe some kind of like ace 5 of diamonds or something. Although you say he probably doesn't have that, but theoretically in the world here, you could have like ace 5 of diamonds. You maybe want to just take an extremely large size. So if he literally has ace king here, maybe it is perfectly reasonable of him to take this large sizing. So maybe it's not so crazy. I don't know. What do you think, Josh?
I just think this range is so unbalanced. Like his 5-betting ranges are so like tight. Like what are as you said, Mike, what are his bluff combos? Like, does he really have random ace X? Like, I don't know. Does he have ace jack of diamonds as like middle pair with a diamond that he's like bluffing with?
Wow. Well, that's a royal flush draw. That's royal flush draw. That probably actually is not a bluff at that point. But
yeah, but also he probably doesn't 5-bet ace jack of diamonds. One would think.
For sure not. So never mind. Yeah, I feel like he probably has ace king here, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. But I do think we can call. I think we can call one street. We do have the backdoor flush draw. We have still plenty of outs. I think it's not ace king enough that we can probably call one street. That's
what I thought of in the moment. I'm just like, what wants to bet so big here? Does ace king even want to bet this big? Because it's getting, I guess it targets a lot of what I hit on this board because I'm calling a 5-bet with queens, jacks, tens, but I also have a good amount of ace king myself. And, the only combinations of ace king I think he's really going to be 5-betting me with would be ace king suited, right?
Right. So only 3.
Yeah, 3 combos. So I'm like, I think I have a pretty standard defend here. Like, I just don't think I can fold this flop ever, especially since I'm also drawing the nuts, right?
I agree, which is why I actually think it is okay for him to take this big sizing, because I think you probably aren't ever folding your range here. So I think if he actually has the nuts, if he has his king, I think it's okay to take the sizing. So okay, so you call. So we're at
call. The turn is a 3 of clubs. It's a relative brick, right?
Yeah,
Brick City, as I've said it before, and I'll say it again.
Yeah, we've never been wrong
City,
about that one. But yeah, Brick City.
And then he bets 210, right?
Wow.
He bets $210 on the turn, and I'm here thinking, I mean, I still have top pair. It's heads up. I'm still drawing to the nuts. I decided to call again.
You now have. I mean, I'm thinking about like if a 9 comes, I guess you make a straight. You might not even be good though if he has ace king. I mean,
right?
You're kind of drawing to a gutter, which isn't like.
But, yeah, in my mind, I'm like, he's repping 3 combos. He's repping so slim here, especially since I block ace king of hearts. He's repping so thin here because I think kings and aces are definitely, they're not betting. First of all, they're not betting the flop that big. I don't think they're going to be betting the turn. He should be doing a lot of checking on this turn because he doesn't want to really get raised, right? Even if you have like queens here, I think you're going to be checking this because it's a 5-bet pot. I have tons of ace king.
So what do you think his bluffs are?
His bluffs in the moment, I was thinking that he could have something like pocket 9s that he could be turning into a bluff, right?
Interesting.
Pocket 9s, which is an open ender on the flop. I think I put some like suited ace X in his range, right? As we were talking about earlier. I'm like, okay, what if he just has like a flush draw here, right?
Okay, like ace 9 of diamonds for like.
Yeah, ace 9, ace 7, ace 6.
Like a flush draw open ender.
But like in general, this whole hand wasn't making a ton of sense to me, right? Because I played with this player a lot, and this isn't our first heads up, by the way. We played heads up before, and I mean, he's sizing down considerably on the turn. He's not even setting up for a pot-sized jam on the river with this bet.
Well, how big would he have to go to set up a pot-sized bet? A pot-sized jam on the river? Like, let's say he overbet like 1.5x.
Yeah, he'd have to overbet here. And I think this particular player, if he had ace-king here, he would definitely pot it since we had like so much to play for behind.
Sure, and he wants to get all the money. Would he ever go for like a check raise? I
don't think he's going for check raises on this board and giving me a free card because this hits me so hard.
Sure.
I think that's a really interesting point about like him betting, like he would have like bet like 500 or something to set up the river jam, like if he had the nuts.
Yeah.
But, like I'm still not sure. Like I guess he does have some pocket 9s, maybe. Like it seems like a bit like weird to 5-bet, but like I guess if he's 5-betting bluffs. But yes, if he has 9s, I think he is definitely doing this. I'm just as we kind of talked about earlier, like given how narrow the 5-betting range is, I don't know that he necessarily has that. But I mean, it sounds like this player's heads up tendencies much better than we do. So if you think that he's got pocket 9s and he would be taking the same line with ace X of diamonds, then like it's definitely possible.
I don't think he's ever taken this line with something like queen. I'm trying to think. Like queen X that he could be turning into a bluff, right? I don't think he really 5-bets any queen X here.
You never think he's
it was just
with ace queen?
Ace queen?
Is this ever ace queen? I'm just curious.
I don't think ace queen didn't cross my mind when I was thinking, what does he bet the turn with, right? I'm like, why are you betting ace queen on the flop that big, right? You're only like you're blocking the hands that you're targeting a call. And why would it bet the turn again? That didn't occur to me in the moment.
And not only that, but like we also like I would assume that his 5-betting range is going to be more ace queen suited, and there are only 2 combos of that at this point because there's a queen and we have a queen. So Like if it was ace queen offsuit, then like we might be a little concerned because like this sort of 2/3 sizing is it's just weird because like it's like now I'm almost thinking like does he have like pocket kings and like
Yeah.
big on the flop for some reason, and now he's like scaling it back a little bit because he doesn't actually want to play for stacks.
Yeah, with the 2/3 sizing, I'm like, why is he depolarizing himself after the flop bet? Like the line isn't consistent. It doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. It's weird. I wonder, like, are you planning to call across like brick rivers basically here?
I was in my mind, I'm like, okay, villain has a bluff, right? He should be shutting down on most rivers here because after I call a turn, my range is pretty narrow, right? And I have so many strong hands that I can call down with here. I mean, king queen will be in the bottom of my range, but I'm a bit of a station, and I mean, I was still live in my opinion, in my head.
Do you have a raising range on this turn? Like, would you raise your own ace kings or sets, or are you pretty happy? Are you just going to call?
I'm just happy with falling down with my ace king and sets. Yeah, I don't think I have a raising range in a 5-bet pot on either the flop or the turn, really, because like when you raise in a 5-bet pot in a situation like this, like your range is literally so narrow. I don't think even queens really wants to raise here, right?
Yeah.
You're saying I have ace king and ace king only.
No, I agree with you, and this is another thing Mike and I talked about a little bit recently. Was like, raising ranges in 5-bet pots is like so often just like not that strong of a hand because his range is, as you've mentioned, is also just like ridiculously strong.
Right. Yeah, like why am I trying to raise into an uncapped range here? Or actually, no. When I think about it, my range is more uncapped than his here. So I could theoretically raise, but I mean, I don't see why I ever would. It's just so hard to ever have bluffs in these spots. Like if I had something like ace 5 of diamonds that I called with pre-flop, I would probably just call turn. Like there's no reason to turn my hand into a bluff. Or there is a reason to turn my hand into a bluff. I'm probably not good, but the question is, can I get better to fold?
Yeah, it'd have to be like on the river. You maybe go for your raise or something.
Right.
Yeah, because you're in position. I mean, man, I don't know. I kind of want to fold here. Just like I'm being honest, like I just want to fold because we are at the bottom of our range, pretty much.
Right.
Like we have so many stronger. Like I guess I'm worried. Like, we are losing to some of. Like if you think he's capable of turning kings into a bluff here, which is possible.
Right.
Like we're losing to that hand.
Right.
So I guess I want to just fold since we're at the bottom of our range because, like, we have, as you pointed out, we have queen, we have jack, we have 10-10, we have our own ace king.
We have better hands to put down with. I agree with you.
Yeah, but
anyways, we end up calling, right? And
fair enough.
The turn is the jack of clubs, right? And
the river.
Yeah, the river. And he checks this river, right? When he checks this river, I'm like, first of all, what do I beat here? I lose to ace queen, I lose to kings, I lose to aces, right? I lose to ace king. I couldn't really think of that many hands that he would, check river with.
Well, you're saying he might give up on a bluff, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I beat ace x of diamonds, but I don't know. For some reason, you ever have that gut feeling in poker, like the white magic that Phil Hellmuth calls it, that's just telling you, you're not good here. You're not good.
Yeah. So you think he has like king or something like that, maybe?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, he could have king here. He could have aces here. He has ace king in his range, but wants to check this river. I guess ace king would want to check this river because I arrived to the river. I should be arriving to the river with a really strong range, right?
Yeah. You can make, like, this is such a nut-changing card. Like, you have so many sets as played. Like, you can't just, like, card could give you the best hand a lot. Like, I think it's much better for you than it is for him. Do you think that's true, Josh?
Yeah, I think this is like a really interesting scenario because if he has a hand like, I just don't know that he's like going to be folding this river a ton just because like, while we obviously do make a lot of boats, like as you said, we had a ton of sets, but also like the absolute number of combos of sets has like goes down a lot, right? Because the board cares. And like we probably don't have like queen jack right? Like king queen is probably close to the bottom of our like five.
I think we'll have queen jack suited here. I mean, I think we can arrive to the river with queen jack suited pretty easily.
Okay.
If you're calling, you're saying you would call pre with queen jack suited.
Of course. I'm not folding that many hands to villain this deep.
Okay. Well then, yeah. So then you can.
I think we're 4-betting queen jack suited.
If I got really out of line, I would probably 4-bet at some frequency because villain is 3-betting deuce 7 offsuit.
Right.
Right. So, and also, this is a like a 7-hour long heads up match. Like there's going to be some like unorthodox lines being taken because you have to. So I don't think that's.
Yeah. That's fine. So queen jack definitely does up the boat combos we can have on this river a lot. Because I'm just kind of thinking if our goal here is to like turn our hand into a bluff, like we kind of have to think about how many value combos we're actually repping. Right. Which is like, there's one combo of queen jack suited.
I think there's one combo of queen jack suited. We have queens that we arrive to the river with. We have tens that we arrive to the river with. Definitely. And we have quads that we arrive to the river with.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah.
And I will say one thing too, which is actually really important here, is he has capped his range at ace king. I actually think he probably never takes a boat this way, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think he does either. I think he will definitely still bet his boats.
So I actually think they say that when you have the nut advantage and your opponent can never have the nuts, you are allowed to bet literally as big as you can. So you are allowed to jam here, despite the fact that I think it would be a 2x pot jam, right? I'm just doing the math right. I think you are allowed to do that.
So I decided not to go on a jam sizing. Right? Okay. I bet 130% pot on the river. I bet $1,000. Right?
1,000 into what is the pot? It's
like 750.
Yeah, around there.
750. Yeah, I mean, I actually do kind of like it. Like, I think it's for all everything I said about the you only have so many combos, but I think that point that like his range is capped at ace king, and I agree that ours isn't. Like, you're not. I generally agree that there's no reason to really have a raising range on the turn, which means you can like literally still have every strong hand here, and like he's calling like even if he has ace king, which is his best hand, he's basically calling to chop at best most of the time, right?
Right. This was what went through my mind, and first of all I'm like, how did I arrive to the river here, right? Because like you guys said, I think I should have definitely folded turn, but I am a station and I'm looking up villain pretty light, right? But, I just had a gut feeling that I wasn't good. So I bet $1,000 to try to fold out a range of aces, kings, and ace king. Right? Okay. And I don't think it ever arrives to the river with ace queen through this line. So I just, crossed that out of the realm of possibility. And now he's in agony.
And I would say if he does, he snap folds ace queen.
Yeah, he definitely snap folds ace queen here. He's in agony, right? And then he goes, how did I arrive to the river with this? Right? I'm like, what does he have?
Oh my God.
I'm like, I'm trying to fold out ace king here. He's like, how do I have jack 8 of spades here?
I'm sorry, what?
How does spades? It's a good question.
8. So this man has rivered trips.
He has rivered trips on me.
I'm sorry.
I was good the whole way through.
Wow. Okay.
Right, so here I am, like, what the actual fuck is going on, right? How does he, what? I was in shock for a second. And, he's tanking. He's using up his entire time bank. And I decided to do something really fucking stupid, like really, really dumb. I'm like, I'll tell you one of my cards, right? I'm like, okay, pick, right? And, we're really good friends. So we, like, it's like a gentleman's agreement between us, right? Like, sure. I've been in these situations before with him, and he's been honorable about it, and he knows I'd be honorable about it. So he chooses the card, which is the queen, right? And I say, the queen of hearts.
Well, that's a better one for him to choose.
Oh, 100%. That is the card I wanted him to choose.
Yeah, and I think like even if he takes the king, he's still gonna be in agony because
Yeah.
like Jack 8 is basically aces or kings, but it blocks one value. Like it might be worse because like it only blocks one value combo, which is like pocket jacks for quads. But you still have like every single ace king here, like 16 combos of ace king.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, honestly, like that makes me think that showing the king might actually be better for us.
Honestly, maybe the queen, him picking the queen makes it seem like it's just like the perfect card for him to pick, for me to bluff. So
it seems like you have queen. You're so at that point, it's just like, oh, queen. Okay.
Right, but my point is there's more combos of ace king than like queen, because also when he sees your queen of hearts, he knows you can't have queen. Like you would have had to have queen jack offsuit for you to have that hand now at this point.
Right.
Yeah,
I guess you're right. It would have been better if he picked the king because then it looks like you have ace king. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But then he might also think, why is he overbetting a board pairing river with ace king? So it's kind of this is a very complex hand.
I actually think if you had ace king here, I actually do like a really large sizing because you might fold out a chop and he never has a vote. So I actually do still like huge sizing with ace king.
Good point. I forgot about the whole range capping thing because I'm bad at poker.
So, anyways, he's in agony. He's in complete agony. He's like, what would you be even turning into a bluff here, right?
Sure.
He's like, why would you be turning ace queen into a bluff, right? First of all, I don't think I would be turning to ace queen into a bluff if I arrived to the river with it because, like, I beat king queen, right? And I'm just like, I mean, I wasn't saying anything, right? I wasn't saying anything at this point because I just wanted to fold. Like, for the love of God, I was just holding on. It was like I was on a roller coaster at this point.
So what does he do?
He ended up tank folding, right?
Woo!
And then he's like, show the queens, right? I show king queen suited, and he's like, wow, that's like probably like the craziest hand I played in a minute.
Wow. Well, wow. Nice job.
Yeah, I think you've convinced me that river shove is like good. Or not shove, but that river large bet like makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I told it to a couple of my friends who were pretty good at poker as well, and they're like, why are you turning this hand into a bluff? Right?
No,
and I'm like, I just didn't think I was good.
I don't think you're ever good there, to be honest with you.
Down to, yeah. I can't think of a hand that like I beat. Unless like he just gives up with like ace X of diamonds. I just couldn't think of a hand that I beat.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's a sick hand.
It was a crazy hand. Shout out Frankie. That heads up match that was crazy heads up match. He finished up because he's better at PLO than me. So I kind of got rinsed there. I was just like over bluffing every spot. Every time I had a block or I had 3-bet the turn, jam the river. It was fun.
Mike wrecked me in some heads up PLO this weekend as well.
Yeah.
So.
It was a matter of pure luck and no skill, but yes, that did occur.
Heads up PLO is another story.
Well,
but, that was an insane hand that I played. Probably like one of the most fun and crazy out of blind, out of pocket hands ever.
Yeah, seriously. Well, thanks so much for sharing that with us, and thanks so much for joining us today, Aath.
No problem. Thank you for having me on, Mike and Josh. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was an awesome hand, and like really different fare than our usual. So nice to mix things up and hear some actually good hand analysis.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thank you for you guys' input. You guys, like after going through the hand and analyzing with you guys, there's different points that I'm like, okay, this is a punt, this is a punt, this is a punt. But it's interesting seeing that other perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. We are experts in punting, so happy to happy to share that. So, all right, well, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Please like the video, subscribe, and put in the comments how you might have played the hands better than us. And tune in next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, see you guys.